staff members of the gallery.
Grant.
Staff member. And here's the staff member too, I'd say. Yeah, welcome. Welcome back. Director Infrastructure. Oh, that's cheeky, isn't it? Director. Yeah, Director. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 28th of October, our last meeting as this Council. And I'm sure the significance of that is not lost on anybody here tonight. I acknowledge the Kaurna people, that they are the custodians of the land that we meet on today. It's a traditional land and we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people are the ongoing custodians and their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. And humbly, we do the council prayer, we humbly bow before thy throne of mercy, O God, our Heavenly Father, and seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the welfare of our city and the peace and prosperity of our land. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Please be seated. Good night, everybody. It's being recorded. Rule time. Let's check the collar, hair.
I was just saying there's more staff than elected members, I think. Which is strange.
Well, at the end of the term, we'll do that. What happened? I don't know. Certainly,
Alan,
apology. Up in Queensland with family matters and may not be in attendance tonight, so we have an apology from him.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah.
I believe we have Councillor Priest, of course. Confirmation of minutes from the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 23rd of September and the special Council meeting of Tuesday the 14th of October. Do we have a Councillor Group who to speak to it? No. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett who should speak to it? Any further debate? No. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And Mayor's reports are page 1574. It's all used to Martin and Checking. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dixon. Wish to speak to it? Have a seconder. Councillor Roberts, wish to speak to it?
No.
Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Verbal reports from council reps on local government and community organisations. Do we have any verbal reports from reps?
I think so. Yes, EHA dinner is on Saturday night, and none of you are invited except Christina Barnett and myself, and anybody who wish to take offers will be considered. Waste care, sadly, a couple of the councils have bowed out to continue on. The hamlet of Walkerville have decided to do their own thing, and Campbelltown, which actually drops us under that 48,000 tonnes that I talked about, which gave us $37 a tonne and lifts us to $39 a tonne. Tragic in a way. However, it appears that West Torrens are still thinking about coming on board, which will lift us way over, as are, what's the other council? Into them, Mitcham, thank you. Mitcham apparently still considering. But that will lift it way, way high. Not that it makes any difference. 48 is the key. But currently we've lifted $2 a tonne. We're currently at about 4,150 tonnes per annum, so $8,400 at this stage is penalties.
Brief reason why Walkerville?
Walkerville is Walkerville. I've never quite worked them out on two boards I sit on. Campbelltown, again, they decided to go with the other mob at $40 a tonne for 5 years. No apparent logic, nobody can work out why. But who knows what happens behind the scenes.
They're going to pay $3 more a tonne.
They're going to pay $3 more a tonne, yes.
Was that CLU where?
No, and they definitely don't get anything less than that. They wouldn't dare give them less than they give to Port Adelaide and a few other big councils. So,
you mind if the CEO just follows up and says
no, not at all.
It's not a thing that we're not seeing.
I've asked and we talked about it at a board level and just all puzzled, especially as they will now miss out on the potential of a great lineup of many councils in 3 years' time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any further verbal reports? No, in the case on the questions, you've noticed there are nil. Questions without notice, are there any? No. Petitions, there are nil. Deputations, nil. Motions on notice, nil. Declarations by members of the conflict of interest. I'll declare over an interest in item 19.1 as a member of a very small class of people referred to in that motion. And a likely and a potential recipient of a council grant. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I think it's item 15.1. I've got the page number, 1626. I think it's the information report, and it's where there is mention of grants, and one of it mentions the Prefer incorporators were successful in one of the examples mentioned, and I declare an interest that I'm a Prefer committee member.
That decision's been made by the council.
Yes, but it's still mentioned there, and it's still likely to be passed.
I declare an interest in every second page in the report.
Well, I'm just declaring an interest in that because it's mentioned.
Okay. Any further declarations of conflicts of interest?
I'll declare one just in case I do that, but I'm not aware.
Take a comment. Protocol, we'll do a call over of the items to be withdrawn. I'll withdraw item 14.1 to point a couple of items in 10.3 and 10.4. I'll also withdraw items 15.1 to point out a couple of things in there, 15.2 for questions. Does anybody wish to withdraw item 19.1?
Yeah.
Yes.
Christine. She beat me to it.
Okay. 20.1, the first budget review. Anybody wish to pull that out? No?
Yes.
Yes. 20.2 I'll pull out because we need to discuss the LGA AGM voting preferences. And 20.3, City of Prospect delegation manual. Does anybody wish to pull that out?
Yeah, Brave person pull that out.
Brave or
Hungry. A hungry person would not pull it out.
So, yes, right. So I'll have someone move the balance of the report not pulled out, which is item 20.3.
Might be my last move, so I'll move.
Councillor Dixon.
A last opportunity to move it up.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Seconder for group. All those in favour? Against is carried. Good. Back to 14.1. Report of the Audit Committee meeting held on Monday the 20th of August. I just wanted to point out a couple of items, given that I withdrew it on page 1575. Sometimes we pass these on block, and Councillor Barnett and I know that there's a great deal of discussion for the committee about some of these items, and the Audit Committee do take pains to make comments where necessary. Certainly not into spending a lot of time wordsmithing, but where it's important for the council to know, they included in the motion. Item 10.3, you'll notice a comment regarding the fourth quarter budget review. There's 3 bullet points there in terms of what they have asked the council to note and for the staff to do, and that's stronger forecasting for the third budget review, because there's a huge change from the third budget review to the fourth budget review, you will notice. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the audit committee said we should better tighten up on that so the variation is much, much less. Second one is to note that the surplus is largely due to reduced staff costs within 1 year. It's not ongoing. I think it's something we already knew. And thirdly, that the forecasting of staff expenses be improved because, again, it flowed through in the last review rather than throughout the year when some of that at least should have been known. And 10.4 over the page, item 2, that Council writes to EHARP for consideration of redistribution of surplus cash to member councils. And the audit committee looked at the EHAR's audited accounts. They noticed some cash sitting in there and said, what's that about? So just for noting for the board members. And Councillor Barnett?
Well, I'd like to move it, and I have a comment to make on that.
Move Councillor Barnett. Fire away.
Yes, I move the recommendations, and being a member of the Audit Committee, and I phoned the Chief Executive of the Eastern Health Authority just to check on the item that was noted by the Audit Committee about the surplus cash situation and about bringing it back to, could we just move it up slightly? Just see, yeah. And about the, no, sorry, just keep it down where that's
the one there.
the operating surplus, yeah, yeah, okay. No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll just go to my notes. The reason why there is at that moment in time, an accumulated surplus is because the Eastern Health Authority needs to run that overdraft and that cash situation until Eastern Health Authority receives the council half-yearly contributions. And as we have noted previously, some of those are late. So that is the situation why at that particular time there is that. The auditors, the EHA auditors have noted that. The statements have already been to all the councils, and not one of them, including Prospect, noted about a redistribution of surplus cash. So, but it's a fair enough question to consider. So that part too. So I just give you that background information from Michael Lavori, the Chief Executive, and that explains why there is surplus cash. So if you want to redistribute the surplus cash, that means EHA then has to borrow the money.
You pay on time.
Yes. Oh, and also, sorry, there are committed $300,000 to $400,000 of committed leave entitlements.
Shouldn't be, should it?
Well, just another comment. That's all that was in the whole conversation. So overall, it could be considered that the accumulated surplus cash is quite modest, and in the overall budget.
One second. That's a big speak.
I would have thought the Audit Committee should have been able to work out.
Yes.
I personally put it to EHA some good long time ago to get rid of the reserve. They used to have $600,000. You may remember that. Yeah. And it shouldn't have been too hard for the Audit Committee to work out that the problem was simply that the funds that should be paid at a given date, they should be aware of that, haven't come in, because there isn't normally a surplus. Otherwise, either Christina or I would have brought it to somebody's attention. So I would have thought a little bit of digging by the Audit Committee, they could have worked that out. EHA, I found, just works extremely well, and is very mindful of those issues. It's not ongoing, and it's one-off. I think the CEO does a great job there on that issue.
Further debate? Councillor Barnett, anything need to sum up?
No.
Those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Item 15.1, information report on page 1623. Just to point out a couple of things of interest here. 1632, just a bit of a summary on the YouTube news. It's been in the media recently. It's expensive. I'm sure we're getting a report back on how to do better, reduce costs and make it more efficient. But just 1632 points out the number of views we're getting on the things we put up. There's quite a comprehensive report on the amount of Facebook activity and Twitter activity that we've got going, and I think it's admirable. 1634 was interesting in comparison. I looked at the number of attendances at the library, and it's 27,000 people coming to the library. So there's no doubt that the library is
our most popular place where people are interacting with our council. So if we want to get messages across, that's a great place to do it, and probably a good challenge for the staff is how we actually maximising the use of that opportunity, given the number of people that come through. And then you compare it to Facebook, and you probably want to ask a question about how we're using our resources, but the numbers are staggeringly different. 1648, note there from NBNCO regarding the information session that they asked us to host with them. 60 people attended, and just a note in that 1648 in their letter, their quote, as always, planning and hospitality provided by council staff was exceptional. We're repeating the session on Saturday, and they're already seeing exceptional activation rates. I think it's a really good bit of feedback for us from NBNCO. It could have been rolled out quicker in my view, but there's no doubt that they have been enthusiastic supporters and partners of us on the way through, and I'm hoping that relationship continues. And 1651, for those of us who have been frustrated about the performance of our waste management system with multi-unit residences, just to point out that KETAP doorstepping consultation and training will happen on a number of those addresses there. If that works, no doubt will be a challenge to roll it out across other places. I noticed Councillor Barnett suggested another address. I don't know exactly what that one is. So there's a lot of work to do in that space, so KETAP can be the key to that. That'd be great. Any other questions about content and information report for the staff? Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I'd just like to note on page 1653, and I note that our heritage DPAs are still not approved by the Minister for consultation. I think this is getting to be a bit of a disgrace because that was, December 2013. So I guess could I have perhaps a question through the Mayor as presiding officer, if that could be followed up yet again, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for pointing that out. I want to see how we could request a meeting to understand the reasons for that delay. Ask for with the Minister. So here we go. Yeah, I think it's quite long in the tooth, shall we say, given that it was part of our corridor rezoning package. Thank you. Any further questions for the staff? If not, I'll ask someone to move the information report be received and noted.
Yes, I'll move that way.
Move it any further?
I just found a lot of very interesting things to read in that, so I thought, it was very good and quite exciting to see a lot of things coming to fruition.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great report. Really, really good. Do I have a second? Councillor Pruitt, with respect. Any further debate? All those in favour? Sorry, Councillor Dixon.
A couple of things that I think must become topics in the next council, and every chance I won't be here to be part of it. So, and that is one, as I door knocked, and I'd be interested in the experience of others, the number of parcels of green bags I found, exactly where they were thrown 6 months ago, 5 months ago, just lots and lots and lots of them, and not just in apartments. In just regular houses, you stand there and look at them and think, why? Here, there, and everywhere. A staggering number. We have to find another way. When we consider the cost of those things, I mean, the delivery cost was either $10,000 or $15,000 just to deliver them. Add that to cost of them, you're talking about a $30,000 sum. Now, as I understand, and I haven't actually had written confirmation, but I might try and get it in the next few days, how much of that money from Zero Waste, we actually got that $30,000 a year that they offered. I'm still not. My understanding is we are going to get year 2 and 3. I'm just not too. Did year 1 come in $30,000 from?
Yeah.
Is that the director or the staff?
Yeah, through the chair, not there.
No. I was informed that we would be getting it, but if we haven't got it yet, I think our odds of getting it are pretty remote. So that $30,000 we're going to have to wear this year. Apparently, I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't mind it being followed up. the next 2 years, I think we've really got to make a decision. Do we accept that $30,000 or is it just not worth our while? Because it's costing us $100,000 a year to run the program. There may be a better way. It's only time to look at it. There may not be. But that for me was just so disappointing to see that willy-nilly here, there and everywhere. The other one, I came across another 2 bio baskets in the recycling bin. And at least it was in the recycling bin.
In the correct one.
And I have photographed them. And if I get back, I might put them up, but I'll send them anyway to whoever looks after them, who will be looking after the rubbish. Again, somewhere, the message has to be, part of it, I think, is this KESAP thing is really nailing people. And when you walk and knock on pretty much every door, the stuff you see in the waste bins, it just makes you wonder. Some of them I took out their great big slabs of polystyrene and stuck them in their other bin. People think somehow polystyrene is recyclable.
Talk to these constituents and just their bids.
Mostly, actually, they were out.
Perhaps I'll answer that question.
Getting there. But I guess the message, it's that the education, I've said it 1,000 times, education in that field pays dividends, and we've got to find a better way to get the message across, through Facebook, through whatever we do. But I'm not terribly sure the people that do these things actually interface with those issues. But it's disappointing.
It certainly is. Any further debate? No? Councillor Barnett, you see the need to sum up?
Only in that I missed out on the Pause Volunteer Walk Organiser Anne Van Beek,
Oh, yes,
the
yes.
National Heart Foundation South Australian Golden Shoe Award.
Yeah, big guy.
Congratulate Anne. So that's my summing up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And if we could get on the yes list for next year. Thank you. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against is carried. Next item is the 15.2, the status report on capital projects and operating projects. I've just withdrawn it to see if there's any questions about any of the projects. Page 1686. Are there any questions?
Too late to get an answer.
Just about this year.
I know.
No, if not, somebody wish to move it. Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Dixon, was it moved it? Wish to speak to it? Seconder? Anywhere? Councillor Britt, wish to speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Yes. Carried. Okay. Item 19.1, the Heritage Grant Program. I'll vacate the chair for this one, so I'll ask the Deputy Mayor if you want to come forward and
Me?
do that.
That's right. I was thinking, where's Ellen?
Boomerang.
I think it was pulled out by Councillor Dixon. Councillor Dixon, want to brief reason why you pulled it out?
Councillor Barnett might give you the reason that I'm sure pulled it out.
She very well may.
Oh,
Who pulled it out?
can't find it.
Councillor Barnett, brief reason why you pulled it out.
Because I made a mistake, and it was actually talking about something in the information report.
Would you like to move it?
Yes, I'd like to move it. Thank
Would
you.
you like to speak to it, Councillor Barnett?
I think we discussed it fairly thoroughly at the workshop, and so I hope that as an outcome of that discussion, that this will be moved, will be passed.
Seconder? Councillor Dixon?
No, I won't think.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Robertson?
I'll second it, but I have nothing to say. That's been said.
Councillor Dixon?
My recollection is that we actually decided at the workshop we would not pay other than for architectural advice in this first term, is my recollection. However, this includes money for paint and whatever else. And I thought I'd at least ask, A, you were at the meeting, if that's your recollection, or if what the recollection of those others here are.
Can I direct that as a question to the Director?
Through the chair, unfortunately, I wasn't in attendance at the workshop. What to do at the staff room again?
The workshop notes.
That's right.
But what do you
We've got the workshop notes of it. So what do they say?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I know Monica was saying she wasn't keen on any of it, I think, but I remember at the time she said, oh, well, if it's just that. What's your recollection, Deputy Mayor?
It's a very, very good question.
My recollection is that we decided in this first term to simply look at providing architectural advice of a heritage nature.
Look, I have to say that's not my recollection. That's not to say that that's not what happened. I thought we did agree to have some fund for small projects, but we wanted to restrain the cost of the project to $2,000. The property issue was that we want to get it
Right. It's not that big, and if there's some thought that it might not be, then I'm happy with that. It's mine, but it's not, and obviously it wasn't yours. So I'll leave it at that.
We could invite
No. Look, if it's generally, if it's not really sticking out in other people's minds, it sticks out in mine, but I'll let it go. Now, I have a bit of a problem on a couple of issues here. At 5.3, and although the recommendation does cover this, the fact that this sits in the document concerns me. At 5.3 it says, grants should therefore be made available following consideration of an application under the Heritage Grants Programme, 1, to owners of listed local heritage places, state heritage places, and contributory items within the historic conservation zone. And then it goes on to 2, for external works that involve the restoration or reinstatement of original heritage features. And it is no indication, and without reading the recommendation, nobody would know if that's as well as. It could well read it's for owners of listed as well as external works of a heritage nature. And I think 1 and 2 should be combined so it is abundantly clear that 2 is reliant on 1 and not as well as 1. That is fixed in the recommendation. The recommendation runs them together. But in this issue, they are quite separate, and it's possible for anybody to think otherwise. But I also have a problem with the wording. To owners of listed local heritage places, state heritage places, and contributing items within the historic conservation zone. Now, to me, that indicates there's only one historic conservation zone. There are several.
Yeah, true.
And throughout the document, we have called these things heritage properties. We've used property all the way through. But when we get to the important part, they're suddenly places. And I'd rather hold so we really know that what we were talking about in the first part is what we were talking about in the second part. So to owners of listed local heritage properties, state heritage properties, and what on earth, I'm not being rude, but contributing items within the historic conservation zone. Are we talking properties? I imagine we are. Contributory items, I understand not.
Is that a question?
Could be a wall.
Through the chair, contributory items,
All the other properties.
it's a phrase used in the development plan, and essentially a list of items that contribute to the heritage value.
Is it just properties or is it other things?
It's not always, I haven't referred to our entire list, but it can be used for portions of, or fences, or allotments. So it's not always just built for, or not always just a dwelling.
Okay, then I probably, actually I appreciate that, but I'd probably rather then say properties and contributing items. So you make it clear that you are at least talking properties and, you know, contributing items. I suppose most people wouldn't immediately understand what that is, but I do accept some of the fences, and I suppose for me it just doesn't make it.
So built form contributing items more.
But I'd rather, in that first sentence, it says, to owners of a listed local heritage property, state heritage properties, and contributing items with historic conservation. So, yeah, look, if everybody's happy with contributing, now I know what it means, but I'd still rather it says within a historic conservation zone, not the, which indicates there's only one to me.
I'm going to have two calculations.
I'm happy as the mover to take on board those changes suggested.
Yeah, Sue's the second. Oh, yes.
No, it's fine.
All right.
Councillor Dixon, the recommendation you said you're quite comfortable with, it does refer to places in
Well, no, I would refer the I'm comfortable with the recommendation, however, other than it should reflect the changes that it's pointless leaving places down in the recommendation when we change them now in 5.3. So I'd like them just both to reflect the same. So it reads, the heritage grants program established for available owners of local heritage properties, state heritage properties, and contributing items within a historic conservation zone.
Yeah.
And then they both reflect each other.
Okay. I'll just ask the director to make a comment on that.
Through the chair, just if I may contribute for clarity of language, I certainly support consistency of language, and using properties and places interchangeably is an issue. Development plan talks about heritage places, local heritage places, state heritage places, etc. So I would be more comfortable in seeing that as the word used throughout. And whilst technically historic conservation exists within different pockets of Prospect, it is one zone as recognised in the development plan. So if that adds any clarity.
It is one zone.
Through the chair, if I may, just to it, much like the residential zone is one zone and is interspersed around City of Prospect, Urban Corridor Zone, cuts it in half, etc., etc.
Mind you, I think for clarity, remembering everybody has to read this, not just somebody that's a planner. And I think there's no harm, personally, I think, in us saying heritage in a heritage zone. Well, actually, that doesn't change anything. But,
30 seconds left. So, there's recommendations.
and I don't mind if it's places, but what I didn't like is just there's no consistency. So change one or the other, you know. And change the rest of the document to be places.
Yeah, well, we can't change the documents now, obviously it's recommended.
Well, no, that can be, it's all minor stuff.
We're happy to keep it in places, and we'll reflect any publicity that goes out from this recommendation.
I mean, my preference is property, but that's what the terminology all of us use, but, you know, I'm sure we'll understand places. I don't think it's quite as distinct and understandable, and I'm sure some people will say, well, what does that mean? But if it's what's in the development plan, in the
Okay, so the only difference in that is the letter A, Councillor Dixon.
well, other than you change the, well, no, other than you're changing the document now instead of.
Well, going forward, we're not going to change the paper as such, so we can do that. In terms of any publicity that comes out of a decision that might be made in a minute, we can refer to places in the So do you understand what I'm saying?
No, tell me a bit better.
The papers before us we're not changing because we're unable to do that. We can change the recommendation but not the paper. Going forward, if this paper gets up and we're publicising what it is that this grant will do, we will incorporate the changes that are in the recommendation. So it is consistent.
Yes.
So can I just ask the movement sector if they're happy with that small amendments?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Dixon, you have 3 seconds left.
Oh yes, even the other one you can't. My other concerns I said was 1 and 2. I have that problem that it's easy to read that and think they're not mutually inclusive, but then I'll just have to let the recommendation do the job.
Councillor
Just had a question through the chair, just to get it absolutely clear in my mind. If the works are undertaken and we will always have a heritage advisor and the heritage advisor decides that they're not, haven't enhanced the house or property in any sort of heritage way, but they've just been something, you know, at the whim of the owner, then we will decline the grant. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's a difficult one because there's so many different circumstances that can arise where a grant may or may not be issued. The intent of it is to apply prior to works being undertaken, and that assessment occurs at that point. So as long as the works then carry out what is assessed and approved, then there will be no reason to decline the grant.
So we'll only pay the grant out when the heritage advisor says, yes, that was done consistent with the heritage, not just something done because the owner wanted us to pay for a little bit of work. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Through the chair, I think I know where you're coming from. That again, the assessment is done off a plan, and the money is advised that it will be issued, and then as long as they deliver on that plan, the money will be issued. The heritage advisor will just visit the site and say, yes, they've done what they said they would do.
If they haven't done what they said they will do, we won't go ahead with the grant.
Through the chair, that's the intention.
Could you also ask if it's per property per calendar year or per property full stop?
Is it per property per calendar year or per property full stop?
Through the chair, I would think the intent would be per calendar year. But
Can we,
if there was part of an assessment criteria that we wanted to add, or if we were in a situation where there were more applicants than what funds existed, that may be a criteria that the council would wish to.
So potentially over, say, 5 years, we could have paid for $10,000 worth of work on someone's property.
Again, through the chair, there is the potential for multiple applications under the way that we were planning it at this point.
Thank you. I think everyone's spoken, or at least had the opportunity to speak. Just before I hand over to Councillor Barnett, I just want to make a point that in the workshop notes from the workshop where this was discussed, we did agree for capital items to be included. And so that's part of the workshop notes, which were up on the screen shortly, a little while ago. I confirmed that was the case. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, that was my memory too of the workshop note. So I think that we've tidied that up, and I think that the staff have got the message, and will be certainly hopeful that things will be explicitly explained, and any documentation that goes out about the grant and the public promotion about it. Yes, I move the recommendation.
Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? Oh, really?
Over to you.
Status quo.
So I will have to call the vote again.
Just declare the casting voter.
Yeah. Councillors, what do you think?
Remembering the rule of the status quo, if there's a tie.
There is no rule of status quo. The casting vote will be on voting for it. The motion is carried.
That's the bride.
No, that's okay. I thought it was just in the first year on. I think that's what we should do. Yeah. And also, it doesn't say it's only one. Yeah, you can't look at the trial to it first. Yeah. You can. Yeah. Check it out. Yeah, I think it's I only done for vote, yes, but I thought I put the not to.
The casting vote.
No, I was looking at the hack programs that I'm not age out there prematurely.
I thought you might.
Programs, by the way, CEO. Yeah, fishing buddy, sign up too. All right.
Two.
First budget review, page 1710. Joined by Councillor Dixon. Brief reason why you withdrew it, Councillor.
Not really.
Yes. I don't agree with the thing that you have to read. I think it's nuts. I mean, you called it out. You have any reason for that?
Call it, get it on the floor. Say that.
Apparently to get it on floor.
Because I wanted to.
Is it some sort of protest at the, possibly the end of your reign?
For years I said, why should we have a good reason? It's just nuts. Because any reason will do. So.
Let's just get on with it.
Oh, I'm enjoying this. Anyway, it's 1710 it is. Did you wish to move it in the current form, Councillor?
Yes.
5 minutes is the go.
I simply just want to say that I've worked with Ginny for some considerable time in this capacity. And with Chris coming on board latterly, and prior to that Justin over many, many years. And if some of you had seen what we used to present in the pre-Justin and early Justin days, you would not believe the document that we have today, and the extent of the reporting by comparison is utterly extraordinary. I have always kept the very first one I got, and you could put it through an eye of a needle. That's how much information there was in it. So the document we have today, and Justin and Ginny, and then more latterly Chris, have just had I think to me, just done a fabulous job with this council throughout the time that I've been involved with it. I am...
I agree. Here. That's kind of an age-old thing.
I don't know here. But, and it really has been a pleasure working with Ginny. She's been very helpful, taught me a lot. And I'm in something of poo with the Electoral Commissioner for my wording. And
which bit, Councillor?
Which bit?
when with the 15 minutes to go, I had to change my last thingamajig because I had too many words. I pulled out some words that was dumb of me to pull out, like on the championship program, and of course now I'm in poo, but shit happens. And
we're not going to relevance, are we?
Not at the last meeting, but I do thank Judy for her help, and I thank her for the time and the care she took, but most particularly for the effort she's put in over quite a few years. And certainly I've enjoyed having Chris on board as well. I think he too has made a substantial difference and brought just more freshness to the department. I congratulate you both for the work you've done.
Okay, one second. Shorter speech. Councillor Lee, any speech?
No, thank you. I just concur with... I concur.
It was a shorter speech. Any further debate? There being none, Councillor Dixon, did you wish to sum up Councillor Lee's speech?
Another
I concur.
That's shorter.
Visually as well, all those in favour? Again, carried, thank you. Anyway, noting there's some substantial movements in that first budget review. 20.2, the Local Government Association Annual General Meeting voting preferences. We've now adopted this as practice. It's not policy, but I just like to get a feel for where people are sitting. I'm sure Deputy Mayor Groot does, because he'll be on the floor carrying the card. So if we head to page 1732, and I seek your leave to suspend any procedures until 8:30, should we need to. All those in favour? Against, so that's suspended. And we'll just work through, in particular, the ones that are yellow or red, unless you've got a violent objection to some of the green. So
how do we know what's in the President's report to support?
It's a fantastic report. I can give you a rundown now if you like.
I'm sure.
Usually about a 15-minute speech, summing up everything the audio has done throughout the year. 6.2, the timing of the election of president and board members on page 37. So there's not, you have to look up the accompanying reports via the link to the LGA site, which is easy enough to do, but it's not here with you tonight. This seeks to pull forward the nomination period for board members and president to open before the election period so that the elections can be finalised soon thereafter. So open before, there'll be a short call after the elections results are known for about a month, so in the November meeting, and then the election, if any, happens in December, and the results are known in February. At this stage, they're not known until April. So the board's looking at ways to try and pull forward that gap between the November election cycle and the April general meeting cycle. Because if the president and some of the boards aren't re-elected, they have to have a supplementary election for that period. It's ended up being a little messy, but that's the intent of the motion. So does anybody have an objection to that in principle? No? Okay, so we'll listen to the debate on the day, because it's not, I believe, not clean yet.
Do you think it should actually say which board?
President and board members.
General meeting approved members of the LGA Constitution to give effect to the change of election residence. President and board members of...
Well, they've adopted this policy in the LGA that they don't need to refer to themselves because it's obvious where they're at.
There are other boards around that they are involved with and are part of, and so if you assume on the basis that if they don't mention it, it's them, but if they do mention it, it's otherwise.
Correct. It does mention the LGA Constitution.
Council.
Yeah, that's the intent. Over the page, they're all greens. Unless someone wants to change, we'll talk about those. We'll go to item 8.1. And this is an interesting motion from the City of Salisbury that the annual general meeting requests the LGA to investigate amalgamation of metro councils comprising less than 60,000 residents.
Sounds good.
And I can tell you that the original motion said 50,000. They had a bit of a debate and amended it to 60,000. Such is the degree of research they went through to arrive at this number. I understand the Secretariat has asked City of Salisbury to modify it to refer this item to the Metro Group for discussion, but I don't know if it hasn't been confirmed yet. At this stage, that is what it says. My view is I don't have a fixed view one way or another. I just think it's a bit churlish for a council of 120 to tell others how to suck eggs.
What's their motivation? Are they looking for more residents?
The background to this was in response to the expert panel on planning reform that recommended regional development assessment panels, and Salisbury interpreted that as the government saying that there are too many small council acts. Funnily enough, the expert panel referred to 8 across the state, 3 metropolitan. So Salisbury themselves, if that went ahead, would be part of a northern metropolitan act, would be part of a central, and so they kind of got, I think, quite confused about this and thought that we were the problem, and that's why these reforms are being forced on them. That was explained to that.
I mean, I'd have less of a problem if the last 5 words were taken out.
Yes.
Amalgamation of metropolitan councils. Or councils, why metropolitan? I mean, that to me is a topic that you should look at from time to time, and I think it's responsible for local government to do that. I don't think there should be a figure thrown in, particularly if it's just because it suits.
Yes. And where's the research on 60,000?
And why would you leave? Why would you leave?
Where they described?
Why would you leave the country out? I can understand the country is quite different, but there could be.
Well, they're laughing at this. The country councils I've spoken to are laughing. There are less than 60,000 people in the entire peninsula, the entire peninsula. That's right. That would be a nonsense to make that one council.
What's yellow?
They know it, but
That we don't support it. What's yellow?
I'm not fussed if it dies, or
Being preference.
but I don't think it's a problem, and I think it would be responsible for us from time to time to look at amalgamation. I don't think there should be any limit.
Well, your amendment's interesting. If you agree, you're happy to try and run that?
I don't personally support it, but I'm happy to run with it if my colleagues around the table would prefer that.
What's the view?
I think that it's too woolly. We're still waiting for the results of the expert planning and whatever the other thing is we're waiting for.
Loosely related, but not closely.
Well, you know, but I mean, yeah, I just think
No?
unless it's, yeah, I think it's redacted unless they make a changes as it's suggested.
Soon to be out of local government. Looking back objectively, Councillor Roberts, what's your view this week compared to 2 weeks' time?
I guess with Ashley, in current form you wouldn't support it with a figure on it, but I think it's certainly one of conversation that I think we need to have about amalgamations. So, yeah, it depends whether Mark wants to run with the amendment.
Okay, so
I'll run with it if people want to.
okay. Well, just going around Ashley's made a point. No, I think that. Micah?
Who's responsible for us to not ignore this church?
Can you make the amendment and get rid of the 60,000? I guess it's no harm in opening up a conversation for amalgamation.
The only question is, what are we amending? That's the title, that's not the paper. So there's,
Oh, that's the motion. In italics. Oh, where is it? Gone.
And it does say to investigate, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Where is the actual content of the motion?
Actually,
So the general meeting requests the LGA to investigate the amalgamation of Metropolitan Council.
Spain.
I don't actually support it.
Oh, they're bringing it back and getting it.
Why wait we ignore it at some stage, you choose the chance of state government. If you take over that, you
After Minister Brock was here the other night, I think it's on the agenda. So
You'd be surprised, Councillor? Not on the agenda.
it's not on the agenda. Well, he made it sound like he was.
From my conversations, I think the current administration could be less interested in the size and shape of councils. They want us to be more efficient, want us to work together. So I don't think they don't have any inclination to start a bun fight about size. If we wanted,
Yeah,
how can you work better together? So
Yeah.
efficiencies rather than amalgamation. Amalgamation is a solution, it's not answering
And-
the problem.
All right, well, don't support it and argue that point.
yeah, that's what I prefer. Because I mean,
a quick show of hands, who's happy to vote it down altogether? 1, 2, 3. Who's happy to amend it?
I'm going to hand in both camps. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, okay. So there you go. Deputy Mayor, mostly voted down. So if you don't succeed at that, then seek an amendment. Have a bit of fun.
yeah, yeah, I'm
Leave it go. Yeah, leave it go.
yes, I'll keep it up.
Tom,
Yes.
Item 8.2, the National Police Certificate requirement for local government election candidate.
supported.
what's this one?
Yeah.
Well, this is for candidates to have a police check
I,
prior to nominating.
You know,
Sorry, the motion is, I've got to be careful here. The motion is to the LGA investigate whether there's sufficient evidence across local government to do it. Okay? So if this gets up, it does not mean it happens, because we don't control the legislation. It means the LGA will undertake a consultation process across the whole sector to ask if there's any evidence that there's a problem, and number two, what our preferences are. Okay?
Monica,
So, Scott, you happy with it?
Yeah, I'm happy with it, mainly because I think that my personal gut feel is I think we should have it. You know, if there's an opening of a childcare centre in our council area and elected members are there, you know, I'm not saying there is or sex offenders in local government, but I think that, you know, having this, it just rules it out. There's no ambiguity whatsoever. And there's people that hang around schools during campaign times handing out flyers. So, I mean, to me, it just rules it out straight away. And, you know, if you want to deliver Meals on Wheels Meals on Wheels, I had to get that out right, you've got to have a police clearance. So therefore I think it should be mandatory and that it should be in place already.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it, but my only problem with that justification is that it only catches people who've been caught.
That's right. It's only, can I add, it's only as good as the day it's issued.
Of course.
So it's really, it's a token thing, and I think sometimes it may give a false impression that this person, we've all got police clearances, therefore, we're not going to do bad things. So,
but it has its limitations.
Yeah.
One argument against this that will be raised on the floor is that this is yet another barrier to people wanting to nominate to run for council. You've got to get organised months ahead to get this bloody thing.
You've got to read the agenda every single week, so if you're not organised to do that, you shouldn't be on.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it's $50.
$50 is a lot for some people.
On the cost, yes, there's no mention about that I've seen about cost. When I was with the registered as a teacher with the Teachers Board until I resigned, but for the first year that it was introduced, that all teachers had to have it, the Teachers Board, whoever paid for the first one, and then after that you paid your own.
That might have to come out and wash.
Yeah.
But sorry, Tasha.
I'm dead against it. I think that people that have served their time, if they've been to prison for not necessarily, well, even if they've murdered somebody, God forbid. But, if they've done their time and they've been rehabilitated and they're regular people, why should whoever, who does this come back to? I guess the CEO and his secretary and whatever else. Why should they know about it? If they robbed a couple of places sometime in their life, bandits or whatever they do, why should that be out once they've done their time, paid their debt? I think the children argument is really just such a frightening that, what we do to society these days, that every time you bloody move or fart even, you've got to get a piece of paperwork for it. It does. It frightens people. I can imagine there'd be a lot of people that they've done things when they were children. Knocked stuff off from sweet shops. And this is
All
right, when they were 8.
This isn't the National Police Certificate. It's not a criminal check. It only does crimes against someone.
Oh, does it?
Well, I think that would need, that's not specific.
No, that needs to be cleared up.
Yeah, well, without...
This is just investigating, don't forget.
Yeah, I think yellow just gets it on the floor, so
But why
I think
would
we
it
should support that.
And that increases the chance of it going through.
Take it as a no. How many years?
I'm not saying that. Just don't cut me off. I know you like doing it, but don't.
I do. I like at night working out how many times I can do it.
He might not have long to do it.
If it's children related, I feel different. But I don't understand that's what it is.
And item 212 does specifically say that the certificate would be posted on the board next to your nomination form. So it's pretty full on.
It's very draconian.
And that's, depending what it is, but if somebody's been kiddie-fitting, I wouldn't have a mind. You see it on the forfeit.
Let me move on, Councillor.
Yes, I don't know of any other organisation that does what they do. At work, we have to have it because we work with people in aged care, but it's kept in a locked register.
Country Fire Service does it, Christine. Country Fire Service does it. Before you can volunteer, you have to have one.
No, I'm not saying they're displaying it along with your thing out there in the front.
Yeah.
I think a part of it.
Can I deal with it this way? How many people are interested in the principle and sorting out the exact rules later on?
At the CFS.
3? Okay. Having a look at the parts of it.
Flag.
First part says to have the certificate. Second says it's got to be displayed. And the third is it's got to be included with your primary and ordinary return. Now, how many people are interested in item 212 and 213?
Why would you have to include it if it's already going to be displayed?
Nobody is supposed to be able to see that. It's your property. The certificate is your property. Nobody is allowed to copy it for a start under the legislation. They cite it.
What's the purpose?
What they do is it is cited, it is put in a register that the official person, that organisation, like CEO, has cited it.
Well, it's cited, but it also excludes you from, if you don't pass the check, it excludes you from participation.
Yes. So
This is not saying that you're excluded from participation. The point of displaying it publicly is to say you have been cleared, but the point that you're there is the fact that you've been cleared. I don't agree with it.
And if you take 2.1.2 and 3 out, why would you do it? If you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, if there's nothing to either, I mean, in an employment sense, the employer makes a decision as to whether they want to accept a risk if someone has a history. In this sense, it's more about does the general public have the right to make a decision about that particular person, whether they want to vote them or out?
Well,
but that's intent of 2.1.2. If you take 2 and 3 out, you might as well take the whole lot out.
Well, under the current legislation, the law, you're not allowed to do 2.1, and I don't know about 2.1.3 either.
You can if you give permission to. You can.
Well, if you give permission, so what? One gives and 20 others don't.
I think this comes back to the point, you're trying to encourage people to run for office, and they know they're going to have their laundry hung out to dry for everybody to see. That's pretty funny. I wonder whether this would be more useful to say to candidates, if you are successful, you will be required to provide a certificate, and then try and work out, well, what are the consequences if you don't. So you have to tie consequences to the action. But I can kind of understand some of the merit in this, but this is a pretty blunt instrument.
But again, this is just investigating. This isn't doing it. This is just looking at it. And in the investigation process,
all right, so let's call this one a close. Who's happy to go to investigate this matter further? To vote up to investigate it. Okay. Who's happy to vote it down altogether? Okay. Somewhere in between, Deputy Mayor.
I'll run on the day.
Okay.
Do most people even understand what it means? Like
Probably not.
Check. It's not actually a criminal check.
Well, that's not. No, it doesn't say that. I've just got a certificate back, and it reminded me of a speeding fine I paid in 1997. It's nothing to do with looking after kids. Except it was a kid's bus. No. It reminded me I haven't had one since 1997, which is very comforting. 8.3, the council notice of motion, taxation of council member allowance. So the effect of this is to exempt allowances from application of income tax.
I disagree.
Disagree? Anyone agree with this?
To exempt from application.
What number is this?
The very next one.
Well, I wouldn't mind it happening. Because what it means is that effectively, what, a third or a quarter of your allowance goes to the tax man.
And the tax rule allows you
or
to,
person.
at the moment, we're allowed to claim back any expenses for council, which would disappear under this arrangement.
Well, plus the remuneration tribunal will do it. And they compare it by the board fees, which are subject to tax. And I would have thought if we get a tax exemption, I'd say, well, they can all go down. Thanks very much.
No, I strongly disagree with this.
Anyone,
So it was explained to me if we pay. No, don't worry. Sorry.
anyone agree with it?
It's a bit like saying they have a part-time job, don't you?
Yeah. Okay. So no one's in favour of this one. I look at it. Okay. That changes. Keep going to the next yellow one. 8.15. The breeding program of local little penguins and New Zealand fur seals. Now, the Mayor of Victor Harbour wrote me an impassioned plea for us to support this, given that the population of little penguins, formerly known as fairy penguins, but for some reason not for the last 20 years, at some of the sites they have on the south coast already have no penguins at all. So there's clearly a problem. Whether this is something for local government to do, I don't know. So that's why it's yellow.
Yeah,
So
The Dormouse Cup.
I'll support it.
Happy to support?
I'll take my happy feet notes.
Yeah. Happy feet.
8.16, council notice of motion, Remembrance Day public holidays.
Yes, I'm all
Oh, yes.
So, decide with 8.15, David. I know.
We're going to support it.
Support it.
They're just not in a second.
The annual general meeting requests the LGA to lobby the state government.
No, if the state government pay, then none of us pay. Then it comes out of that magic money.
To go through the emergency service.
We'll all pay.
So,
16, as we will for this.
Yeah.
Remembrance Day is a public holiday for the years 2015 to 18.
How about 2015 to 2021?
Why only for 3 years?
I think that's
that's
fantastic.
the war.
100 years of the war.
I think that's just 2015.
No, don't.
Anyone in favour of this?
I think it's up to us to decide.
No.
The red? Okay.
Gals, the RSL.
And overpaid with that. Unless anyone wants to talk about the green one. Sorry.
Senator Ronson.
The red one.
Here's the red one, CEO. What's that? 8 point.
That councillor process.
You got the red one?
Vote it down.
8.5. The council knows the motion code of conduct free speech. Oh, this one.
Oh.
You're thinking what I think.
This one was interesting, 8.5. And
Which council brought it up too?
well, which council law? Yes. Cut a long story short, this council was convinced by council law that I had raised a code of conduct against Councillor Priest, and knowing that he was going to be a mayoral candidate. Both of those things are actually untrue. The councillor also intimated or implied that Lucy-Anne Lewis, who's the national president, had raised a code of conduct complaint against Councillor Hull, knowing that he was going to be a mayoral candidate. Now, I think he had declared that he might be. He turned out not to be, but she's never raised a code of conduct matter against him, nor anybody, as have I. And he also raised another matter in his background of this motion about another mayor raising a matter against a councillor, which that mayor did, but that councillor had not declared that they were running for the mayoralty at all. So the whole basis of this is just complete nonsense. And the LGA's response is that there's plenty of capacity in the code already to stop vexatious claims against councillors and councillor councillors. So,
And with free speech come rights as well. It's not just, you just can't, you know, free speech, yeah.
that's right. Yeah. May well, but he's not, so he can't. All right, so thank you. That gives us some guidance. Deputy Mayor, are you comfortable with the...
Absolutely, I'm happy to move it.
Very good. Sorry. Yes, we should note those down. 8.5 stays red.
Yeah. 8.3.
8.3 changes to red, yeah. And 8.16 changes to red.
Yes.
Red card.
And 1732, just make sure we've got the wording of the motion. Okay. That's voting preferences. Okay, so just remind everybody that the Deputy Mayor on the floor may hear a very cogent argument about something and vote differently to the preferences. So he's not bound by his preferences. Do you understand that?
I find that most interesting.
Deputy Mayor's moved it. Bruce, wish to speak to it at all? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Roberts, wish to speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, we've already moved on 20.3 in the delegation manual. I know the governance manager was itching to answer questions on that. Not a hard work on that. Right, manager? With a team of people. Draw your attention to the diary. The farmers market is cranking up again now that spring and summer are here. It's a good crowd Thursday night. Club 502, Friday the 7th. In case you hadn't noticed, the election closes on the 7th of November and counting on the 8th. The next exhibition opening is on Sunday the 9th. Sleeping, Councillor Roberts. The gallery opening on Sunday the 9th looks to be a goodie. I think, I'm pretty sure Minister
Signal.
is presiding over that one, so that should be good. And Prospect Community Garden Open Day on Saturday the 15th of November, and 12:02 on the 21st of November. Now, do we have any general business?
Is this,
Councillor Roberts.
No, I don't have anything.
Councillor Barnett.
yes, I noted that there are very dry, waist-high, even possibly head-high weeds around the air raid shelter externally in Wilcox Avenue. So I guess it's a question. I'm not sure if that just gets noted to the controls. The cricket club, I believe, control the area, or do we do it?
No, it's a minor nature, matters of a minor nature for action, so you're asking for it to be attended to?
Yes,
thank you. Any further items of general business? No? Any general business of an urgent nature? No, but in the case, confidential items go nil. I close a very large council meeting, and in doing so, thank all of you for what we've achieved in this 4 years, and thank the staff as well for their indulgence of us and getting on with the job. But for those of you who definitely aren't coming back, Scott, thank you for your time with us and your contribution. And I hope you've got memories of things that you've done and your time with us. For those of you who are definitely back, Councillor Barnett, got our work cut out for us for the next 4 years. And for those of you who are out there, including a member of the gallery who's just arrived, who are out fighting for a position on council, can I commend you for running what looks to me like a fairly clean and honest and upfront campaign. I haven't seen too much scuttlebutt out there. And all the best to you. Everyone is out there putting their best foot forward. And certainly in the North Ward, it's the most keenly contested ward competition I've seen since my time on council. And being from the North, I'm really impressed by that. I really like it. For the Central Ward, with 6 again, all the best for your campaigns. I know both of you worked incredibly hard in that ward too. And I just don't know, I just don't have a feel for where it's going to land. So I'm as interested as you, and I'm kind of excited. I'm really pleased with the field of candidates we've got overall. I think, you know, in the main, there's some really incredibly good people there.
Well, just in case I'm going to enjoy my last subject.
Sorry, I know this is a protocol, but just the opportunity to thank all the staff. It's been not feeling confident about my chances of seeing you guys again. So just thank you all for your support, and it's been a great 6 years, and just wanted to say thank you very much for everything.
I'd just like to echo what Monica said, especially to Mark. During my time on council, you've been a sounding block, so I want to thank you for that. And there's been a number of times I've spoken to you confidentially, and you've kept the items confidential, and I think that means a lot for an elected member, that they can come to the CEO, because sometimes you don't know where to go. But all the directors, there's a lot of new faces around the table, which is good. All the directors have spent a lot of time with all our inquiries and lots of emails, and it's been great that we can come to the directors with anything. Greg came out to see a person in the North Ward that they had an issue with. Greg kindly came out in his own time, to speak to that person to soothe that ratepayers query. So making our directors accessible to our ratepayers, I think, would be one of the only councils, I think, that would do that. David, thank you for your leadership as Mayor, and congratulations on being elected unopposed. We have difference of opinions at some stages, but it was good to be able to go through a state campaign with someone else that was experiencing it. So thanks for that. And congratulations to Councillor Barnett for a strong, I was going to say something else and I thought it might get me in trouble, wiser head on council, and being a sounding board as well. And once again, congratulations for being elected for another term. I'm not too sure how many terms it is now. It's too many.
A lot.
And Mark and everyone else. I mean, Mark is I've formed a very good friendship with you, Mark. So so that's going to, I'm going to miss that side of things, and yeah, I hope that you're successful in your bid to get back on the council. And Ashley and Monica, the same for you. I mean, council's been fun to come to. We have debate, and I personally haven't let it get to me. Others may have. I think that's the good dynamic of our council at the moment. So I'm hoping that all the new elected members can form and gel their own dynamic, and hopefully as many of you can get back on as we can to carry on the good work. So that was it. My piece.
Okay, unless there's anything further, I'll close the meeting.